Hey, what's up, everybody? So, I'm essentially doing an emergency broadcast to go over the whole Scout Comics debacle that's going on. And I apologize if I ramble. I apologize to everyone that has had, bad experiences with not just Scout, but any publishers. I'm going to preface this by first saying sort of what I'm going to do here. I'm going to explain sort of my take on, in general, like who are Scout Comics, what's my experience with them, what's kind of their role in the greater indie comics world, and then what do I think is like really going on here, in a sense of the bigger picture, and then but and then sort of where do I think things are going to go in the future. That's my goal of what hopefully I'm going to cover today. But I first want to start to preface so that people don't just. I know I'm already going to get like people hating because I'm essentially going to be defending the enemy here, because I'm most of the time I'm always on this side. I've been a manager for 15 years. When people leave the company, when you have to terminate people, there's always another side to it, and you always look like the bad guy when you're the manager. Okay, I've also I've worked in film as one of the people that, as an investor who gets paid first. And when other people down the line don't get paid, as a creator, they're always wondering why, what happened, whose fault, who's to blame. And I've always been on the other end of that. Because those who invest the money are those who get paid first. It's the same, like, that's how it is with producers, that's how it is with distributors, that's how it is with publishers. If they're the ones investing the money, they get paid first. And then the creators down the line. And there's all kinds of Hollywood accounting that people say, whatever it is, some of that shady stuff does happen. And Scout probably has done some shady stuff. In my personal experience, there wasn't any real shadiness. I always got paid. I always was in communication. There was a few cases in which books got delayed, paper shortages, whatever the excuses were, doesn't matter. Yeah, there were times whenever I would reach out, and they didn't respond for months at a time, if ever, about where things were with, deals as far as with media agreements, where things were with the trade paperback release, which got pushed and delayed, and there was a lack of communication at times. But you have to understand, this is a long year thing of a long game, and they have multiple projects. And I had a point man that was an editor that was amazing, Charlie Stickney. He's no longer with Scout. Maybe he had issues with them as well. I've never addressed him personally regarding that. But whenever I was with Scout, specifically the year in which my book was released, we were always in cahoots, always in control. There was never any bad blood, and everything released, we all in agreement of what was released, agreed on covers, agreed on editors, artists, merchandise. Everything was, real time, done as according, all in agreement. There was never any issues. It wasn't until my book was already done, it was already out, it looked amazing, it had a lot of success. It was actually the most successful book of the year in 2020. 2020 was a crazy year, so was 2021. That's whenever my trade paperback released. But then after that, when my book, the hype was done and gone, that's whenever I stopped getting, responses to my emails about, oh, hey, whatever happened to us trying to do so-and-so. As with many things, you're somewhat promised, it's not like a promise, it's just everybody, it's like making a film. Everybody, when you're making it, you're in this hype. It's all potential. You're getting reviews, you're starting to think about sequels, everything's happening. And then all of a sudden, that dies down. And then you realize you didn't actually break even, and now you're trying to scramble things together, and all these big dreams of ultra success sort of just end. And there's all these loose ends that are left having to piece together of, okay, now this revenue stream that we were going to do that was supposed to be a super, thing, we were going to try to release it in this country, that person never responded. There's a lot of moving parts that the publisher isn't the only one that's not getting responses. Like, they get ghosted just as in the same sense that they're ghosting you. That happened to me. My guess is that happened to plenty other creators. Is you reach out, you say, hey, what happened with this? I got my statement on the first issue, and there's this line. I think you guys might have forgot this thing. Whatever happened with that? This license agreement I thought happened. Did that ever finalize through? Whatever happened with that? And you might get 3 weeks, 6 months, nothing. 7th month, a whole wave of like, here we go. We got this. This finally is going through. We're still working on this. We're still working on that. Because like I said, your contract's for like 5 years. And they try to do multiple things. And your initial launch, like all that's all hype. Everything's all potential. But then things, like I said, they die down. And that's like where it was with myself. And that's sort of where I'm still at. It's not over. They're still selling the book. They're still... mine was successful, so there's stuff that's sold out, and they did multiple printings, and they're doing collections and legacy and all this kind of stuff, and they're still trying to work on, media licensing and overseas licensing and stuff like that. But it's essentially died down to nothing. And some things never happened, and probably never will. But I just moved on, and just like anything else. But the point I'm gonna get at here now is like they probably really didn't, like, I don't know what happened with other creators, but my guess is that some of them really did. Maybe my point is, like, I don't think they're predators. They're not scam artists. It's not like they're lying saying they're not about creators. My whole experience is they invited me and other creators to New York Comic Con to do signings. They bought me tables at conventions all over the United States. They allowed me to coordinate with other creators. They opened up forums to where we can all discuss things, and other creators took on roles to help, combine universes, and it was a very collaborative thing. It wasn't like a predatory, it's not like they're trying to steal your IP and then just not give you your piece. That wasn't my experience. That wasn't the experience of people around me. It can seem like that, though, and I'm going to explain, and I'm not saying that they didn't screw some people over. They maybe did. I don't know the full story. But, like I was saying, being in management and producing, there usually are two sides to this, and I'm going to sort of lean to the corporate side as, kind of siding with the enemy as that may seem. But the point I'm going to get at is, like, I also think a big thing that happens here is for those who are new to the creator space, to the creator-owned indie comic space, is that almost nobody actually makes any money. Even this is why you see so many publishers just go down and just don't make it. Scout's probably mainly functioning on their media licensing deals. That's where a lot of the big money comes from. Because whenever it actually comes to publishing, it's like VCs investing in tech companies. 9 out of 10 of them go to zero, and then you have one hit that covers their investment and all the rest. And so it's the same on an individual level. So with like you as a comic book creator, if your series is 5 issues, you're most likely, unless you are a breakout success, the only issue that's going to break even on printing is going to be the first issue. And if it breaks even there, it may, and then it dies down, and you get less and less people wanting to buy your book as the series goes on. So where you get to issue 5, if you had 5,000 orders of issue 1, by the time you get to issue 5, you might have 1,000, if that. And they always print more than the orders so that they have stuff in the warehouse to sell online. And as I've explained in the other videos, that's actually where you make more money, because and that's how I made most of my money, is through direct online sales, and through warehouse, like me buying books at the 50% off retail so that I could sell them at cons or on my own website or whatever, because there I make more of a return because the comic book shops aren't taking their cut. All right, it's the same with books that are sold online. It's just split between you and the publisher and not the retail shop. So you get 50% of the retail price, and which is, at the time $2 for a $4 issue. You make that per issue, as opposed to whenever the retail shops takes theirs, you might get 10 to 15 cents per issue or something like that. So all of a sudden, those 5,000 books you sold in comic shops, you make 10 cents off that or whatever, depending on how much the publisher spends on printing. And their cost of printing goes down the more that they print. This is why you need to be a hit in order to actually do well. Because whenever you're a hit and they get 13,000 orders instead of 3,000 or 1,500, or in reality in indie comics it's more like you might get 900 or 600, and they might print 1,000 or they might print 900, and in order to break even on a print run that's less than 1,000, their printing costs are very close to what the half, like they're to where the margins are super thin. They're not really making anything on it. In order to make actually a profit from a print run that low, you have to sell every single one of them pretty much, or very close to it. If you print 900, you need to sell 825 in order to break even, and then you might profit from 70 issues or something like that. And then you have to count in that some of them might be damaged and things like that. There's a lot of different facets that can sort of screw everybody over when you're in this small of a space. This is why you need to do a bunch, because then when you get 10,000, when you get 7,000 pre-orders like I've had, and then those pre-orders turn into more like 20,000 actual sales. Now they can do a print run of 25,000. And the print cost is way low. So now instead of making 10 cents per issue, it's more like 25.50 or whatever. It's just a rough general math, guys, like just to explain like how it is. But the whole point of this is like it's very low. You're probably not going to break even on your first issue going through any small press publisher, not just Scout. And this I feel like this is why I'm going over here, that most people don't know that. If you're lucky, you might get if you do all the stuff that I say, where you hype it, you do all my whole like ebooks and all my channel, the videos talk about, to where you build your audience, and like then all of a sudden you can maybe get 7,000 orders on your first issue or something like that, and then they print 8,000, and you can sell 500 online, another 500 at Comic Cons, and now you're making real profit. Okay, but the point I'm getting at is that if you don't know that, the first issue probably barely breaks even, okay? And then your second issue comes around, and half of the buyers of the first issue, only half of them show up to buy the second issue. So now you're basically not going to be able to break even on printing costs, because they also have to print issues 3, 4, and 5, and they go lower and lower and lower. And now they're printing them all to maybe save money. They're essentially trying to print as many as they can that they think they can actually sell, to where if they sell them all, everybody makes a little bit of profit. But if you don't sell them, you aren't making any money, and you're essentially negative. So what happens is whenever you get your statement, whether it's every quarter or 6 months, you're like they do the accounting to where you, let's just say out of the issue 1, you profited together, $1,400, okay? But now you only see half of that, the creative team, because you split it between the publisher. Now the second issue, it makes $300 profit, and now you split only $150, okay, for the creative team. By the time you get to 3 and 4, it's actually negative. They basically don't break even on printing. And then all of a sudden, by the time you get to issue 5, you've essentially just done nothing. You get 0. Because the other ones lost money, and they take the profits from issue 1, because it's all in the same statement, and and subtract your losses from issues 3, 4, and 5 from the profits you made from issue 1. So essentially, you just never covered printing costs, and that's it. And they'll eventually add up the royalties down the line if they can sell them online or in shops or whenever they go to conventions or whatever. And maybe in a statement in another 6 months, you might, if they sell enough to break even on printing on all those, you might get a statement that's $45, okay, or something like that. It's the same with independent films. It's like you get a distributor, you think all this stuff is great, you're on a streaming platform, it's on a streaming platform where a lot of people can buy it. You send everybody there, you see the numbers, you're like, wow, like I got whatever it is, 10,000 viewers, but then you get your royalty statement and realize they subtracted all the other things that had to go into getting into that platform or whatever, and you receive nothing. Point I'm getting at is that that's the most common scenario. 80 to 90% of the time, that's what happens, is that you receive a zero balance. And then all of a sudden you're a creator and you'll go on and you'll be like, hey, I didn't get any money. It says I made money here. I should get some of that profit. Then in reality, like, well, it doesn't. It balances out to zero on the later stuff. And then on top of that, and this is where it seems like it can be shady, is it's not just your initial print runs. They'll take, they'll subtract what they had to pay to get your book onto a certain platform, a digital platform. They'll subtract the fact that they had to, pay for Shopify. They'll subtract that they have to do any form of bare level marketing. If they did anything to if they paid for a variant cover, they're going to subtract that out of your revenue. If I say yours, it's your guys is together, because like I said, if they're the ones investing, they get paid first. Like, they're going to cover their investment before you receive anything. That's what net profits is. As much as that sucks, you don't make gross. You don't make the gross revenue. You don't make half of everything that comes in. You only make half of everything that comes in after you break even on everything they spent. And that's the thing, is they'll subtract anything that they can say they spent money on for you. If they spend money on a variant cover artist, if they spent money to get you into a certain place, if they spent money in whatever. That being said, from what I remember with my statements with Scott, there wasn't anything like that. It was just plain and simple. It was the different covers, the printing costs, and then whatever they spent on the more unusual variant covers, like metal covers and things like that. There wasn't any weird, shady, unknown marketing cost or something. It was all pretty cut and dry. But like I said, it's easier for me to see when mine was all profit. It wasn't all profit. There were some down the line. Like, I'm still getting statements that are like $8 or something like that from what they might sell on Whatnot. But from that initial run, each issue was successful to where like I was saying, it's just easy to see, and there wasn't anything weird going on. So that's my point on like what may be happening to where people thinking they aren't making money. That's not to say that Scout may have actually just withheld people's money at one point. They may have done that. I don't know the full story with any other creator, but they did with me. I can't say to other people's scenarios. But the other thing I'm gonna try to go into is just like my general take on now what's gonna happen here. Like, is Scout a good company to work with? This is where I think people like me are starting to come forward. Before this whole Scout comic debacle, it's starting to become more clear, and hopefully, like you guys understand today, is that it's actually, publishers don't do a whole lot for you if you're trying to make money purely, okay? If you're trying to just if you make a comic book and you just want to make enough money to cover the cost to make a great comic book, it's actually wiser to just try to build your own audience and self-publish and sell directly to your audience. Because as I've covered this in multiple other videos. Okay, you can watch all my stuff. It's like it's easier almost to try to sell 500 copies directly, and you're more likely to make more profit doing that than you will trying to get 5,000 people to buy your book through comic shops. Um, but so like in general, that it's just like that's not what these companies like are best for. Like it's possible to do well through comic shops. What comic shops are good at, and I believe Scout is still good at doing this, is you have a better chance of getting your stuff in front of more eyeballs. So you're a better chance of actually getting your stuff in front of more comic book readers. Essentially, you'll be able to grow your audience larger through publishers and comic book shops. Publishers have a built-in audience that just read their books if they like their titles and like their company. Now that is to say that this blow may just hurt them too much to where people just don't want to buy from them anymore. If they're like truly canceled, they may struggle for a long time, maybe won't recover, maybe, if enough creators just trash them and enough people just don't like. They weren't that huge to begin with, like I was saying, like that most publishers fall and they could be another one. But that being said, like I said, they are still good at doing what they're supposed to do as a publisher when it means making your book look good, getting it through all the proper channels, do the basic design, editing, marketing. The editors I work with were great. I don't know how great the editors that are there now are, but in my experience, they're great. The design team, great. The executives at the time, they did a great job of shopping it around Hollywood. Okay, before I would not have been able to get the meetings and phone calls as far along as I did in the Hollywood sphere without the agents at Scout. Okay, so they're still good at doing that. They are good at taking your property. There's a better chance that you'll actually get a bigger media licensing agreement with them than you probably would on your own, trying to cold call producers or whatever, if you can even manage that at all. I am somewhat in the sphere, and it's still I was able to grow my sphere with Scout way more than I could have asked for without them. And that doesn't mean that other publishers can't do the same thing. I'm just saying that for what they're worth, they do that. They did that. I don't think that that's going to change in the future. I don't think that in the grander scheme that these issues that they're facing is going to affect them being able to still be able to flip IP, or however you want to phrase that. I don't think it's going to affect them being able to get your book into comic book shops. However, that being said, the lack of communication is a big failure on their part with me, and it looks like with other ones. Whenever you basically just ghost people, it just doesn't sit well, and that lasts for a long time. And if they do that, not just the creators, they probably do that with other people, and maybe people on the media end can feel the same way. Not just creators. It's like any other industry where it's not just everyone is treated somewhat the same way and feels the same way. It's not just like managers trash talk other managers in a way, is the point I'm getting at. So that could happen. To where going forward they may just some of their downsides may just catch up to them, and their good sides weren't good enough to balance it out in a sense. But the other thing I want to address here is I don't think that creators that had bad experiences with Scout or any other publisher should trash talk other creators that don't just blackball or ban or trash Scout as well. I see creators doing that and being like, oh, you act like everything was great for you, so you're just going to ignore everybody else that had this terrible time. It doesn't work like that. rude in a sense to the people that have books with them that are going smoothly. It's like they can't speak to your experience, and you trying to just like drag them down and make sure that they fail just because someone you knew had a bad experience. You don't know the full story on everybody's end. You can't just say this person lied, and so now everybody just needs to fail together. There's a lot of moving parts, like I said, in all this. It's not cut and dry. It's not like one person. This isn't Miramax or whoever the Weinsteins, whatever their company. It's not like just like one predator and everybody's just ignoring and looking the other way as they're just killing everybody and just stealing everything or whatever, and now all of a sudden, because you don't just like, you still don't, people still watch their movies. We still watch Tarantino movies. Are we gonna like tell everybody to just stop buying everything Scout does forever? Everything they ever did, every creator that works for them, everybody that just signed with them, that is now just we put our heart and soul in these books. We make a lot of. That's the whole point. That's why everybody's upset. Is we do a lot, but this is a hobby. This is like, it's this. That's the other thing, is like it's not like this big obvious machine like sometimes people think it is. On the publishing side as well, the executives and the people you work with, the editors you work with, they're basically editors at night. They have day jobs. The publishers and the executive teams at these companies, they have day jobs as well. They're essentially doing this as their hobby, and they're just trying to make it all work. And things don't always work. It's not like they're just trying to just hustle through the machine, take your stuff, send it out, you're done, on to the next. They're really trying to do their best, in a sense, but I don't know. I mean, I could talk about this forever, and I believe that I am going to be able to get the executive team, or at least one or two of the guys, either the CEO or the president, on to do a live interview with me. And if you guys want to see that, stay tuned. I'll keep everybody updated. I just have to be able to, because like I said, like I have a day job, they have day jobs, we have kids. It's hard to schedule these interviews. People who've tried to schedule interviews with me before, it's hard for me to do these during the day. I have to do them at night, and not everybody can do them at night. They have the opposite thing going on. And just because things are delayed, don't act like it's a big deal. They're just they're conspiring together to screw everybody out of this industry. No, it's hard to make these things work. This is essentially a hobby. This is a side hustle. I know it's not like that for everybody. I know that there's people that do this full time and they struggle, and it's a grind. I keep it part time because I don't like to suffer and grind. I like to keep this fun. Even just doing videos like this are fun for me. So that's my take. You can hate on it all you want, but I'm just trying to tell you guys. I'm just trying to be authentic and tell you guys how I feel about it. If someone comes forward to me and gives me receipts of how they were truly hit in the head with a baseball bat and then laughed at, and then I'll go up against the bullies. But until that happens, I'm gonna try to see the sides of both sides of this. All right, and I don't discourage people that have already worked with Scout or continue to work with Scout. Like, I'm not gonna be like trashing you if you continue to work with them, just like I'm not gonna trash the people that were harmed. And I don't think it's wrong to ban or cancel Scout either. If they truly did some of the stuff that people say, yeah, that's bad. And I don't blame you for just not buying their books or not supporting them or whatever. But sometimes it's just it's a grind and a hustle, and people don't always see the big picture here. And there's probably something greater going on, and it's not like they're just just trolling, scamming, and screwing people over. I think there's just a lot of misunderstandings, a few big, huge mistakes, and maybe they can make it through this. And I'm going to, they helped me whenever I was down. I'm going to try to help them. That's just how I roll. Hate me if you want. See you guys.